Boy, that's some serious blowing. Some serious stuff.
Serious blowing.
Every Sunday evening on WSIE Radio, listeners hear the sounds of jazz greats delivered by Bob Bennett from the studio.
Blue Note, one of the defining figures for the Blue Note sound for its first 10 years was none other than Jimmy Smith.
And Leo Cheers from home.
He's a fantastic performer, having got started in the 50s and still enrolling today. When you think about organ players, you got to think about Jimmy Smith.
Cheers, known to jazz fans as the Man in the Red Vest, has been broadcasting more than 40 years. He and Bennett have co-hosted Sunday Night Jazz for 6 years.
You remember this sound, Lee? Talking about some 7 steps to heaven.
Oh, yeah.
Let's go to the concert hall for it.
Cheers, who was once a die-hard lover of rhythm and blues, gravitated to jazz in the late 1950s. He was in the Army at the time and stationed in Washington State.
There was nothing but bluegrass. Elvis Presley was coming in then. And laying in the bunk at night, I heard a tinge of the music that I recognized. I said, hey, that's the music the guys were playing at home. Some station out of Kansas City or somewhere was reaching out there. And I met a sergeant who was a cook. And we got to talking to each other, and then he was living in Tacoma, Washington, which was 30-some miles from the base. So I'd drive him home and every day, and we would go into his house and sat down and listened to his music, because he had just about every jazz record you thought about.
When he got out of the service, Cheers went to work, first for the Postal Service, then Barnes Hospital during the day. By night, he spun records in St. Louis area clubs. It was 1962 when Cheers began entertaining radio audiences.
A friend of mine owned a TV and radio repair store, and a little station in East St. Louis called WBBR had churches coming in on Sunday, and they would buy a certain amount of time, and so he had bought some time for his store just to advertise it. In doing so, he would go down and do the show, and I would go with him. He had about a half an hour. So he allowed me to come in one of those mornings, and I got in and didn't know what to do. I got mic fright. For a few minutes, I stared at the microphone, and then I got into it. And from then on, he quit coming, and I started writing his shows, picking the music, and being the man.
Besides WSIE, Cheers has had jazz programs on several area stations over the years. He broadcast mainly during the overnight hours. His moniker, the Man in the Red Vest, came about after Cheers moved to KSD Radio and his show picked up a major sponsor, Anheuser-Busch.
But they wanted a name. They wanted to know, well, we know the Leo Cheers name, but what else could we call that show? And it was thought about for a few minutes, and I said, hey, listen, how about the Man in the Red Vest? I had on a red vest that day.
In a time when the formats of many commercial radio stations include short, repetitive playlists, Cheers has free reign on his public radio show to pick what he plays. If some programmer came to you and said, Leo, here's a list, this is what you got to play, what would you tell him?
I would look at the list, and I would find out what's on it. And if it did not fill the jazz need, I would say I can't do it. I would say that, and I did it to that particular situation, reverting back to the time when I couldn't afford to say that, but I did.
Cheers has made some impressive friends in his time on the air, the late Dizzy Gillespie, the late Billy Eckstine, and Marlena Shaw, to name a few.
Ahmad Jamal, who I'd listened to over the years, and now he calls me when he comes to town.
I worry about you.
And the joking side I had with Arthur Price. It's been a fantastic run. Being able to bring those people into your living room. We've got interviews that we recorded some 30-odd years ago, and Bob and I will play it on our show on Sunday and it brings back memories not only to me, but it brings back memories to the listening audience.
Boy, it's a great sound, isn't it?
That's a fantastic sound.
It's a beautiful thing. Clifford Brown, Max Roach at Basin Street.
But on the short list of closest friends, you'll find Bob Bennett.
Bob is a fantastic cat. He does his music. He's gone to school on it. He plays tenor sax. One side of him is rough. To me, he's a baby bear. And I'm the only guy that could call him that. We've got a great relationship.
Until we started working together, he really had not had someone else on the air with him, which is, and I feel extremely fortunate to think that, out of 42 years in broadcasting, I'm the only other person who's ever co-hosted a show with him. But it's in his nature. If someone needs help, needs advice on something, and they come to Leo, he's going to do whatever he can to help them out. Not just with people in radio, but with musicians. Local musicians want to get their music played. They want to know how to get a bigger name for themselves. They come to Leo. He says, I'll do what I can for you.
Leo's colleagues at WSIE aren't the only people with good things to say about him. He's also well regarded by jazz disc jockeys at other radio stations in the market.
I don't think of myself as a rival with Leo.
Jazz historian Dennis Owsley of KWMU also has a Sunday evening show.
He has surprised me a few times. Most of his show over the years has been kind of in what I would call a soul jazz bag. But one night I was going up to KWMU when he was over on WSIE, and he had on John Coltrane live in Japan. I almost drove off the road.
Cheers' devotion to his calling is strong. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for the current state of his health. Severe arthritis, tendon, and other problems confine Cheers to his East St. Louis home, which has been his broadcast space for several months. Cheers' condition has its roots in old injuries he suffered playing sports in school.
I've had some very hard hits, in playing the game. But I just kept going. I don't mind talking about it. I knew the doctor had said quite a few years ago that I should have been in a wheelchair. I did not think about it. I just went on. And I'm not bitter, I want to tell you that, because with the friendship and all the things I've done, you can write 2 books.
Cheers plans to stay on the air as long as he's allowed. Grateful for the opportunity, his audience, and a professional partnership connected by love of jazz and a phone line.
We can converse off mic, we do all evening long. But I do miss having him there, absolutely. Look over and see the smile, the laughter, but he is still there, on the other side of the glass, so to speak. And we're still together, we're still doing it, and having a good time doing it.
I feel as though I'm on a mission. Somewhere, maybe in the next 25 or 50 years, the name Leo Cheers might come up, And if it does, I want it to be, well, this cat played a lot of good jazz.
You're the best audience in the world, and we love you so very, very much. Good night, and good morning.